First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Proverbs, the 13th chapter. A wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke. Yeah, and why is that considered a wise son? Because they know and understand that the instructions of their father, is for their benefit. But the scorners heareth not rebuke, right? Because they don't. The scriptures talk about how reproving a wise man, right, will make him love thee. A scorner that lacks wisdom cannot even accept rebuke. A man shall eat good by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul of the transgressors shall eat violence. So by the fruit of his mouth, by the things that he says and the deeds that he does, right, which will be righteous, good things will come to him. But the soul of the transgressors shall eat violence, right? That's basically going to be the reward that comes to them through transgression. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life. If you have control over the words that you speak, you're going to preserve your life, because saying the wrong thing in the wrong time can actually get you killed. But he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction, right? Because that's one that has no control over his mouth and really over himself. The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing. And the sluggard is somebody that's lazy. And why? Because they desire, but they don't have anything because they're too lazy to go and work for it. But the soul of the diligent shall be made fat, meaning they're going to have an abundance. A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. See, a righteous man hates lying because it's not a righteous thing. Okay, he's a righteous man is truthful, but the wicked man is loathsome. Let's go into that word loathsome, and cometh to shame, because eventually their wicked deeds are going to catch up to them, and they're going to be, ashamed. They're going to be despised and found out. See, loathsome, to have a bad smell, to stink, to emit a stinking odor of wickedness. So people loathe a what did it say here? A wicked man, because of their wicked deeds. The stench of wickedness, oozes off of them. Righteousness keepeth him that is upright in the way, right? It'll keep you sure, right? It'll keep you protected. But wickedness overthroweth the sinner. One, falls to their demise by going in the way of wickedness. Look at Saul. What happened to Saul? Saul ended up going in the way of wickedness and eventually died through it. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. Let's read this in the NLT as well. It says here, some who are poor pretend to be rich. Others who are rich pretend to be poor. NIV, one person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. So when it says there is that maketh himself rich, yet has nothing, that's one who has nothing but acts like they're rich. And then there's one who has great riches but conceals it through humility. The ransom of a man's life are his riches, but the poor heareth not rebuke. You see, so it says here, and when you go into that, basically, a man's life can be a ransom, something you give in exchange for. So somebody can give money or his riches in exchange for his life, but the poor heareth not rebuke, right? Because, if you're going to go after somebody that's rich, hold him, like, I ain't even gonna give that example, but that's because he has something that you want, something you can take for a ransom. What does a poor man really have? So they don't even so little as even try to rebuke him, because there's really nothing they can get in exchange for him. The light of the righteous rejoiceth, but the lamp of the wicked shall be put out. And the light can also represent your life, or your way of living. And it rejoiceth. Why? Because the righteous are sure, right? They live a sure life. They don't have to worry about the consequences of wickedness because they're not in that. But the lamp, of the wicked shall be put out, which also can signify, judgment coming to them or them being destroyed, which we know that the latter one is going to be the case, right? Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well advised is wisdom. See? Because when somebody becomes proud, the scriptures say pride is when somebody departs from their maker. But that's when you start to have strife, contention, okay, because nobody can humble down and take the low route. But the well advised, and how are they well advised? Through wisdom. And to learn wisdom requires discipline and instruction. But with the well advised is wisdom, like we just mentioned. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished. Right. What's that? Those get rich quick schemes. When you get wealth through vanity and it's not sure, it's not right, eventually it's gonna run out. You're gonna lose it. But he that gathereth by labor shall increase, because you have a sure means of making that increase. Verse 12: Hope deferreth maketh the heart sick, but when when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. Okay, so hope deferreth, when you're hoping in something, right, or you're really looking forward to something, and it doesn't come through, it maketh the heart sick, right? It's like a heartbreak. You feel bad. But when desire cometh, when the thing that you've been desiring finally comes and you get it, it's like that joy is like a tree of life. And the tree of life, what it really, in this case, it's like when something you've longed for, right, you've hoped for a long time, and you finally get it, that feeling you get is like a restoration of your strength and your joy, right? You get that sudden boost and a sense of excitement. It feels like a source of life itself. That's why it's likened unto a tree of life. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandments shall be rewarded. Right? If you despise the words of the Lord, you're going to be destroyed. Because if you despise the word of the Lord, you're not going to follow them. And if you don't follow them, there are consequences that end up in your destruction. But he that feareth the commandments of who? Of the Lord shall be rewarded. The law of the wise is a fountain of life. Because if you follow, what do we just read here? If you despise the word of the Lord, you're not following the law of the wise. Okay? The law or the instruction of the wise is to lead you on out of trouble and to a better life. So it's likened unto a fountain of life to depart from the snares of death. See? And that it'll teach you like things to look out for, things not to do because they will lead to this. Don't get involved in that. Don't associate with this person. And those are all things that if you take heed to, you'll avoid the snares of death that are laying along, the path of life. Verse 15: Good understanding giveth favor, but the way of the transgressors is hard. Looking at that in the NLT, it says, a person with good sense is respected. A treacherous person is headed for destruction. Every prudent man dealeth with knowledge, but a fool layeth open his folly. Right? So the prudent deal with knowledge, right? And that's what makes them prudent. Right, their decisions are rooted in knowledge, right, in sound reasoning. But a fool layeth open his folly to where everybody can see it. In one of the Proverbs, it says that a fool, just by walking in the way, shows or tells to everybody he's a fool, not literally with his mouth, but by his actions. So he lays open his folly; everybody can see it on him. A wicked messenger falleth into mischief, but a faithful ambassador is health. Okay, let's look at that in the NLT, right? An unreliable messenger stumbles into trouble, but a reliable messenger brings healing. Because an unreliable messenger, eventually, what's going to happen when you're found out to be unreliable? You're either going to be removed or you're going to be punished, right? If you're wicked, if you're a wicked messenger, and you're perverting the message that's being sent, either from a bribe or you're just not doing your job right, eventually it's going to catch up to you. It'll be found out and there will be a consequence for it. And we're also likened onto messengers of the Lord. So if you're a wicked messenger, you're adding or taking away from the message of the Lord. The mischief that's going to come upon you is judgment. But a faithful ambassador, right, which is also like a representative of someone, speaking on someone's behalf or being in their stead, is health. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction. Because if you can't come under instruction or discipline, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to lose, right? You're going to lack the traits needed in order to work diligently to make gain. So eventually poverty, and closely tied with poverty, comes shame. You're going to look back on your life, and you're going to have that midlife crisis, right? What have you really done? Nothing, because you refuse to follow instruction. But he that regardeth reproof shall be honored, because Those that regard reproof, what it's going to be like is an upward trajectory of growth onto good works. Because wherever you went wrong, you were corrected, right? And you took heed to that. And now you're held in honor or in high regard. The desire accomplished, the desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, right? When you have a goal or a desire and you're able to accomplish it or get it, it's sweet. But it is abomination to fools to depart from evil. You see, that's why fools find it so difficult to let go of evil. To them, it's like it's an abominable thing to even try recommending to a wicked demon drug dealer that they should go and get a 9-to-5 job. They should go and study and work hard to make something good to themselves. It's like you're speaking an abominable language to them. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise. There's a saying that you are more likely to be like the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So what is that? Birds of a feather flock together. So if you spend time with wise men, you will be wise. But a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Because what is the outcome of fools? Destruction. They live in their folly, they die in their folly. Evil pursueth sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. So if you live as a sinner, imagine it like evil is looking for you. And eventually, once it catches up to you, that's when you meet judgment. So you're going to be sinning, you're going to be living in sin. And then one day, boom, you get a knock on your door and it's evil. And when you open up to him, he's going to pull from his left hand judgment right there. Hey, let me introduce you to judgment. AKA car crash, right? AKA some harsh repayment for some evil thing you've done or some wicked deed you've done. But to the righteous, good shall be repaid. See, and that's going to be as a recompense for the righteousness that they've done. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. So a good man who orders his life aright, he's right before the Lord, is going to have good success, enough to be able to leave an inheritance to his grandchildren. But the wealth of the sinner, no matter how much they amass, ultimately is going to be laid up for the just. So it's kind of like they're doing all this work really for it to be transferred for the benefit of somebody else. Verse 23, much food is in the tillage of the poor, but there is that is destroyed for want of judgment or lack of judgment. Okay, so the tillage of the poor, which is, their work, their hard work, their diligence, right? Or in other words, diligent work, produces plenty. That's the much food. Even if you're poor, if you work hard, you can produce a substantial amount. But as it says, but there is that destroyed, or that is destroyed for want of judgment. Okay, because what they lack proper judgment, proper instruction. Verse 24, he that spareth his rod hateth his son. Your rod is like a stick, and you use it to correct, your son or your child when they go off. If you spare that in not using it to correct your child, you hate your child, because what's going to happen is they're going to grow up to be worse and worse. That's why you see some of these videos. You'll have these Edomite children, and they're speaking disrespectfully and proudly to their parents, even at a young age, because they don't have the fear of their parents, because whenever they did wrong, their parents didn't correct them. There's that episode in Dr. Phil where the boy, little boy, probably like 9 years old or something, he slapped his mom, right on camera. Bam. He's like, how does that feel? And she couldn't get him in check. See, so when you spare the rod and you don't whoop your child's ass, as we all got our ass whooped, then you're hating your child because you're not correcting them. Now, if you're a good child, you're not going to get your ass whooped. But if you're a bad child, you will. So you can be corrected. But he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. That's early. You don't let bad behavior fester. You correct it immediately. As they say, you nip it in the butt. Verse 25, the righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul. but the belly of the wicked shall want. And why is that? Because the Lord is going to provide for the righteous. So they're able to have enough to eat and be satisfied. But the belly or the stomach of the wicked shall want. They're going to be in need. They're going to lack. And that brings us to the end of the book of Proverbs, the 13th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodesh. Until next time, Shalom.